Welcome to the Sci-Fi Codes channel. Have fun listening to this story. Don't forget to subscribe. With the subscribe button, Chapter 1, A Fine Mess. Well, that's another fine mess you've gotten us into, I muttered, watching the spectacular light show of exploding Nexar warships through the observatory dome of my diplomatic vessel. Somehow the human expression seemed fitting for this catastrophic moment. Who could have anticipated that underestimating something as simple as friendship would lead to one of the most disastrous miscalculations in galactic history? Oh, I suppose I should introduce myself. I'm Ambassador Cole Vex, Senior Diplomat and Observer for the Galactic Council, and right now, I'm witnessing the systematic dismantling of what was supposed to be the Nexar Empire's unbeatable armada. Ambassador, the human fleet is requesting permission to dock, my aide, Trill, announced, her voice trembling slightly. They're being accompanied by them. I didn't need to ask who them was. The ships flanking the humans had a soft, bioluminescent glow, the unmistakable mark of the Lumini. Known for their peaceful ways, the Lumini had just helped humanity decimate a force 3 times their combined size. Permission granted, I said, keeping my voice steady. And Trill, prepare the good refreshments, the ones we save for victory celebrations. But sir, protocol states that after a conflict, Trill, we just watched a species known for interpretive light dances and philosophical poetry turn the most advanced battle fleet in the quadrant into space confetti. I think we can bend protocol just this once. I watched the human ships move into position, each one a fascinating mix of practical engineering and artistic flair, much like their creators. They weren't the most advanced ships in the galaxy, but they had something better: adaptability, and now, friends. The Lumini ships were an awe-inspiring sight, organic-looking vessels pulsing with light like giant deep-space jellyfish. Yesterday, if you'd told me these ships could split a Nexar dreadnought in half, I'd have laughed you out of the sector. Ambassador, Trill called out. Commander Chen and High Illuminator Astra are ready to board. Excellent, I replied, straightening my ceremonial robes. Time to face the music, as our human friends would say. Chapter 2, Pizza and Tag. 3 months earlier. You want to what? I nearly choked on my morning stimulant as I read the official request. The Lumini, masters of meditation and starlit poetry, wanted to form a military alliance with the humans, the same humans who produced reality shows where people bounce through obstacle courses. The request is genuine, Ambassador Vex, Trill confirmed, antennae twitching with amusement. High Illuminator Astra was quite insistent. I set down my drink. The Lumini were legendary for their commitment to peace, not military strength. Their home system was essentially a galaxy-wide light show, and their diplomatic gifts included crystals that sang harmonies of cosmic peace. Get me Blake Washington on the comm, I ordered. Blake, the human ambassador, had a refreshing way of cutting through diplomatic formalities, and he made excellent jokes about bureaucracy. The screen flickered, and Blake's familiar face grinned back at me. Good morning, Cole. Is this about our new best friends? Blake, what did you do? The Lumini haven't allied with anyone in 10,000 years. They send meditation instructors to war zones. Blake chuckled. Would you believe it all started with pizza? Pizza? Yeah, that circular flatbread with toppings I brought to last month's diplomatic dinner. The one you said tasted like a religious experience. The Lumini found it fascinating. They started asking questions about humanity's contradictions, how we build warships but fill them with art galleries. He continued. It got even better. Last week, High Illuminator Astra attended a human children's birthday party. They taught the Lumini how to play tag. Tag? The ancient art of touching someone and running away? Exactly. The Lumini spent hours running and glowing in different colors. They called it a profound spiritual experience. I blinked, trying to process this. They want an alliance because of pizza and tag? Not just that, Blake said. They saw something in us. Humans, despite our capacity for war, still find beauty in play and strength in kindness. Chapter 3, The Unlikely Alliance. 3 months earlier, I found myself blinking in disbelief as I read the official request that had just arrived in my inbox. The Lumini, the peaceful philosophers of the galaxy, wanted to form a military alliance with humans. Yes, those same humans who still produced reality television shows about people falling into colorful obstacle courses. It was almost too absurd to comprehend. Blake, are you hearing this? I muttered, nearly choking on my morning stimulant. What's that, Ambassador Vex? Trill, my ever-efficient aide, asked with a knowing smile. She was used to seeing me struggle with things beyond belief, but even she seemed intrigued. The Lumini, I said, reading the request again just to be sure. They want to form a military alliance with humanity, the Lumini, the ones who meditate and write cosmic poetry. This isn't a joke, is it? Trill's antennae twitched in amusement. Not a joke. High Illuminator Astra was very insistent. I think she believes humanity and the Lumini have something important to share. I stared at the screen, my mind trying to process what had been proposed. The Lumini were known across the galaxy for their serene philosophy and artistic flair, not their military prowess. These were the beings who had turned their entire home system into an art installation, visible from 12 parsecs away. They hosted meditation retreats that had waiting lists stretching for centuries. They gave diplomatic gifts that were as beautiful as they were impractical. These were not the kinds of people who typically sought military alliances. I sighed deeply and set down my drink before I could spill it. Get me Blake Washington. We need to talk to the humans about this. Blake Washington had recently become the human ambassador, and I had to admit that I respected him. He had a no-nonsense approach to diplomacy, and a knack for cutting through the usual diplomatic double-talk. Plus, his occasional sarcastic humor was a refreshing change in the sometimes dull world of galactic politics. A few moments later, the holoscreen flickered, revealing Blake's face. He was grinning, clearly enjoying whatever situation had unfolded. Morning, Cole. I'm guessing this is about our new best friends. Blake's voice was playful, and it only made me more suspicious. Blake, I began, rubbing my temples. I don't know how to put this, but the Lumini have requested a military alliance with humanity. They want to partner with us in warfare. This is the same species that hosts singing crystal festivals and has a century-long waiting list for spa treatments. What in the galaxy are you doing? Blake's grin only widened. You'll never believe it, but it started with pizza. Pizza? I asked, blinking slowly. You know, that round thing we brought to last month's diplomatic dinner. The one you said tasted like a religious experience? He teased. You're telling me that the Lumini, the galaxy's most peaceful philosophers, want to form a military alliance because of pizza? I couldn't hide my incredulity. Blake laughed. Not exactly, but it did get us talking. See, the Lumini were fascinated by how humans live with contradictions. We make weapons of mass destruction, then write poems about flowers. We build warships and fill them with art galleries. It confuses them. Okay, but that still doesn't explain— Hold on, Blake interrupted, holding up a hand. Let me tell you what happened at a recent party. High Illuminator Astra attended a human children's birthday party. You know what happened? The kids taught them how to play tag. Tag? The ancient art of running around and touching someone? I was beginning to wonder if I'd missed something in the last few decades of diplomatic service. Blake nodded. Exactly. The Lumini spent 6 hours running around, laughing and glowing in different colors. Astra said it was the most profound spiritual experience they'd had in centuries. I felt my mouth go dry. You're telling me the Lumini want to form a military alliance because they played tag? You're missing the point, Cole, Blake said with a wink. The Lumini realized something. There's beauty in chaos, wisdom in play, strength in seeming weakness. They chose us because they believe we understand that peace isn't just the absence of conflict. It's about having the strength to be silly. I stared at the holoscreen, unsure how to process this new revelation. Then, just to add another layer of complexity, a shimmering image appeared on the screen. It was Astra, the High Illuminator herself, the face of the Lumini's diplomatic efforts. Her bioluminescent form pulsed with gentle blues and greens, radiating a calm that almost made me question the entire universe. I trust Ambassador Washington has explained our position? Astra's melodic voice filled the room. Something about pizza and tag, I replied dryly. Astra's light shifted in what could only be interpreted as a chuckle. Yes, delightful innovations. But there is more, Ambassador Vex. We have observed humanity for centuries. Your species creates art with warships, names its weapons after mothers and lovers. You fill your soldiers with songs and stories. I raised an eyebrow, genuinely curious now. And what, pray tell, have you learned? We understand, Ambassador, Astra continued. True peace comes not from denying the darkness within, but from embracing it wisely. Humanity embraces its contradictions, just as we do. You choose peace not because you are weak, but because you are strong enough to be gentle. Chapter 4. The Shadows of Expansion. As Astra's message hung in the air, a chill ran down my spine. I had known the Lumini for years, and their serene wisdom had always been something I admired. But this alliance they were suggesting was unlike anything I could have imagined. However, my thoughts were interrupted by an incoming report. The Nexar Empire had begun another round of expansion. Their fleet had pushed dangerously close to both human and Lumini space. I could feel the tension mounting, but I also had to admit that I was intrigued. The Lumini had never expressed any desire to take military action. They'd always been the peaceful, contemplative ones, the ones who refused to engage in the violence that dominated much of the galaxy. Yet here they were, suggesting that humanity, who, in their eyes, had somehow learned to navigate chaos with grace, might just be the key to stopping the Nexar. "Trill, keep an eye on the Nexar fleets," I said, staring out the observatory dome of my diplomatic vessel. "I have a feeling that something major is about to unfold." Trill nodded, her antennae twitching in alertness. "Understood, Ambassador." Minutes turned into hours as I watched the patterns of galactic expansion shift before me. The Nexar Empire was relentless, their warships positioned like a battering ram, pushing closer and closer to both the human and Lumini territories. But there was something different this time, something subtle, like a storm brewing just beyond the horizon. Then, as if to punctuate my thoughts, I received an urgent message from Commander Chen. The human fleet was preparing for action. There would be no long debates or drawn-out negotiations. The time for words was over. Chapter 5. The Call to Arms. The message from Commander Chen was brief and to the point. "We're ready, Ambassador. Time to show the Nexar what happens when they mistake peace for weakness." I watched as human ships powered up, their engines humming with purpose. The human fleet was never the largest, nor the most technologically advanced in the galaxy, but they had something far more valuable: adaptability. The Lumini ships, too, began to shift in formation. Their bioluminescence, which had once seemed solely artistic, was now pulsing with a newfound purpose. The peaceful philosophers had become warriors, and they were ready to defend their way of life. I felt a strange sense of pride swelling in my chest. This was not what anyone expected. This was not how the story of the galaxy was supposed to unfold. Yet here we were, an alliance of peace and strength that had been forged in the most unexpected of ways. As I stood at the command center of my diplomatic vessel, I could hear the hum of energy building in the air. It was as though the universe itself had aligned to support the forces of peace, and the Nexar would soon learn that underestimating this alliance had been their greatest mistake. Chapter 6. The Dance of Destruction. The battle unfolded like a symphony, the Lumini ships and human fleets moving with a precision and grace that defied all expectations. What had begun as an innocent game of tag between children had evolved into a synchronized dance of destruction, a display of power and unity that would shake the galaxy to its core. The Nexar, arrogant in their superiority, quickly realized they had underestimated their opponents. The first human ships arrived inside their formation, catching the Nexar fleet off guard. Their commanders scrambled, unsure of what was happening, but by then it was already too late. The human ships had positioned themselves in a pattern that perfectly mirrored the Lumini's planetary defense grid, a grid that had once been thought to be nothing more than decorative light arrays. But now it was clear. These light arrays were the key to the Lumini's defense. They were not just beautiful, they were deadly. As the battle raged on, I couldn't help but marvel at the synchronized beauty of it all. The Lumini, with their mastery over light and energy, had created a weapon that no one had ever seen before. They had found a way to bend the very fabric of the galaxy to their will. And the humans, humanity, with their chaotic spirit and their love of the absurd, had brought that power into focus. Together they were unstoppable. The Nexar, realizing they had no hope of victory, attempted to self-destruct their remaining ships. But the Lumini were one step ahead. Their ships released a harmonic pulse that neutralized the Nexar's self-destruct mechanisms, leaving the enemy fleet crippled but intact. In that moment, the entire galaxy held its breath. Would the Nexar surrender, or would they continue to fight until the bitter end? But then, something unexpected happened. The Lumini, in a gesture that shocked even me, transmitted a message of peace. They were offering the Nexar a chance to join the galactic community, to embrace the wisdom of peace over violence. The Nexar had no choice but to accept. Their fleet, now crippled and vulnerable, had no other options. Chapter 7. A New Era. The dust settled. The battle was over. The galaxy had witnessed an unprecedented turn of events. What had begun as a simple diplomatic gesture, a desire to understand humanity, had blossomed into the beginning of a new era. The Nexar had surrendered, their warships crippled by the precise and unexpected alliance between humanity and the Lumini. It was a victory that no one had foreseen, not in the way it had unfolded, nor in its ultimate outcome. I stood with Blake, Astra, and Commander Chen on the bridge of my vessel, looking out at the remains of the Nexar fleet. Their ships drifted in the void, darkened and silent, their once imposing presence now reduced to a shadow of its former self. The Lumini had done something no one thought possible. They had redefined the very nature of warfare, using light, art, and energy to disarm the greatest military power in the galaxy. "Well, Cole," Blake said, his voice unusually somber, "we did it. I never thought I'd see the day when humanity and the Lumini would actually make the galaxy sit up and take notice." He paused for a moment, looking out into the vastness of space. "But I can't shake the feeling that this is just the beginning. Things are going to change, maybe not immediately, but in ways we can't even predict yet." I nodded, staring at the fragmented remains of the Nexar fleet, the silence of space feeling unusually oppressive in the wake of such an intense battle. "You're right. This won't just reshape our relationship with the Nexar. It will change everything. We've started something here, a new kind of diplomacy, a new kind of strength, and I think the galaxy is going to have to come to terms with it." Astra's soft glow flickered as she stood beside us, her bioluminescent form casting gentle, calming waves of light. The High Illuminator had been the one to suggest the alliance, but even she seemed surprised by the sheer scale of what had transpired. The Lumini, despite their power, had never been confrontational. This moment marked a shift, not just for them, but for all the peaceful civilizations in the galaxy. "You humans," Astra said, her voice soft and almost meditative, "have an understanding of balance that we did not anticipate. You are a paradox, a contradiction, a species capable of immense destruction and boundless creativity. You are capable of war, but also of peace. Perhaps it is this very duality that allowed us to win today." Blake gave a wry smile. "It's funny you say that. I think it's that very contradiction we've all been trying to reconcile. People, species, governments, they all focus on one thing. But you and us? We both understand that peace doesn't just come from the absence of war. It's about making choices, embracing those contradictions, instead of hiding from them." There was a long silence as Astra considered his words. Finally, she spoke again, her voice calm yet thoughtful. "You are right. In this alliance, we have discovered something powerful, perhaps not just about warfare, but about ourselves as well. By combining your chaotic energy with our structured serenity, we have created something that transcends both. I see now that peace is not a passive thing, but an active choice, one that requires strength, not only of the body but of the spirit." Commander Chen, who had been quietly observing, crossed his arms and looked at the vast field of debris that was once the Nexar fleet. "This could change everything. The balance of power in the galaxy is shifting. The Nexar were only the first obstacle in a larger game. We may have won the battle, but there will be more to come, and we need to be prepared. What if other factions see this and want to test our resolve? What if the Empire sees what we've done and considers it a threat?" I knew he was right. The Nexar were a formidable force, but they weren't the only threat lurking in the galaxy. The Dominion, the Drakari, even the Velthri Collective, all of them had the potential to disrupt the fragile peace that now hung over us. The galaxy wasn't just going to lie down and accept this new order. There would be challenges ahead, ones that would test the very foundation of the alliance we had built. "That's something we'll need to address together," I said, turning my attention back to the Lumini and human representatives. "This victory isn't just a symbol of our strength. It's a symbol of the kind of galaxy we want to build, a galaxy where power isn't about domination, but about cooperation, a galaxy where peace isn't just a goal, it's the way we live." Blake nodded thoughtfully. Yeah, but let's be real. The next few years are going to be a test. We need to hold this together. And we'll need to face the hard realities of what peace looks like. Astra tilted her head, her light flickering with thought. We are prepared, Ambassador Vex, and we too are learning. The Lumini were once content to meditate and write our verses. But now we see that wisdom must also be applied. It is no longer enough to wait for peace to come. We must actively shape it, together. The hum of activity on the bridge picked up as reports filtered in from various sectors. The Nexar were retreating, but the remnants of their fleet were still formidable, and there were a few pockets of resistance remaining. The job wasn't over yet, but the most important battle had been won. I knew it was only a matter of time before the galaxy would have to adapt to the changes we had set in motion. I think it's time for a new approach, I said, turning to my team. We need to prepare the entire galaxy for the reality that things have shifted. There will be no more hiding behind old alliances or excuses. The galaxy will have to evolve with us. Blake looked over at me, the weight of his words settling in. And when we're ready, we'll build a future, Cole. One where even the darkest corners of the galaxy understand that peace, even in its most complicated form, is something worth striving for. As the ship drifted through the stars, I felt a strange sense of peace wash over me. It wasn't the calm that came from silence or meditation. It was something deeper, something more profound. We had just accomplished the impossible, but the real work was just beginning. A new era was on the horizon, one that would require all of us, humans, Lumini, and every other species in the galaxy, to confront our contradictions, our complexities, and our shared desire for peace. It wouldn't be easy. It wouldn't be perfect. But if there was anything this victory had shown me, it was that the galaxy wasn't beyond saving. There was still hope. And with that hope came the responsibility to ensure that the new era we had just ushered in would be one worth fighting for. As I stared out at the stars, I could almost hear the echo of the Nexar's retreating ships, drifting away into the void, a reminder that we had won. But the true victory, I realized, wasn't in the battle itself. It was in what came next. And that was something none of us could predict. But we would face it together. With strength, with courage, and with the wisdom that sometimes the greatest power comes from knowing when to lay down arms and build something greater. Before proceeding, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell.